right, welcome back. Hope everybody had a great time in the first networking block. Leave us a thumbs up if you met someone cool. I'm excited for our next speaker. We are going to kick it off with the next keynote speech coming up right now with Alex Kudelka. Alex is the VP of Sales at Bitrise. Bitrise is the first and so far only Hungarian company to make it into Y Combinator. Since then, they've become leaders in the mobile CI/CD space, serving over 50% of the world's mobile app unicorns and turning into a holistic DevOps platform, helping developers to build better mobile applications faster. So before joining Bitrise, Alex was VP of Revenue at Doodle and Global Business Development Director at Algolia. And he's with us today to talk about how early stage startups should approach scaling their sales team. So join me in welcoming Alex and learn what matters and what doesn't. Alex, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, happy to be here.
Take it away, the floor is yours.
Perfect. I will absolutely probably make mistakes technically today, but we'll hope that that's not the case. You should be seeing this incredible background from a title slide that I did not steal from somebody else's presentation that I saw a few weeks ago. But excited to talk about scaling your first sales organization. There's a lot to cover, and I'm obviously going to try to make sure that we get this done in an adequate amount of time. So I'll be looking for people shouting at 5 minutes left to make sure that we get enough time for any questions that people may have. So to get things started, the few areas that we're going to cover today, we're going to start with just laying the land out, making sure that we're all talking about the same stages of a company so that it's familiar to you when you're hearing about me talk about these different stages. So the growth stages of a startup, the journey of building your first sales organization. So the way we're going to structure that is we're going to put our hat on as a founder, then we're going to take that hat off and put the hat on as a VP of sales. Then we're going to take that hat off and we're going to put our hat on as if we're a CRO or a VP of sales scaling up a much larger global organization. So literally as if we're building the organization live. And then last but not least, we'll cover any common mistakes that are found along the way. A few disclaimers. I'm not a designer, so these slides are most probably horrible. I may or may not curse during this presentation, so I'll try to keep myself fairly reserved. Also, there are many ways to do this. There are a lot of people who write online on how to scale a sales organization. There are a lot of people who write online of how to build a startup. Everybody's got a point. What I'm going to share is my experience from what I've learned from both failure and success, and I hope that you all take that with a grain of salt. But ask questions, please laugh at any moment, serious or funny, and more importantly, reach out. So if there's something in this presentation that you want to learn more about, or if you want to pick my brain more on any particular subject that you've heard, I'm more than happy to grab a call with anyone and share more experiences or just hear out some ideas that people may have. So we're going to first start with the growth stages of a startup. And I'm going to be using the classic hockey stick image, or the classic hockey stick model as an example to talk about the different stages we will discuss. There are, in general, 4 stages. A lot of people break these down to even more stages. I'm a big believer in this specific type of hockey stick model because not many people talk about the blade years, which is where we're going to kind of start our journey. But that basically breaks down into tinkering. So you're probably not even doing this full time yet. This is an idea that you've had. You're programming it yourself or you're working with somebody else. But you're still deciding if this is a solution that's scalable or can even monetize. The blade years where you've committed to this journey, you've either bootstrapped or you've raised some series, or you've raised some seed money, and you've actually started getting your initial paying customers, and you're really fleshing out what that monetization model looks like. The growth point or that growth inflection point where you've cracked that monetization engine for the most part, you've validated your customer segments, and things are starting to become predictable. And you're going to hear me say predictable a lot throughout this presentation. And surging growth. So that moment where it is unstoppable, you're going to be successful, you're going to grow. The question is, at what rate and how far? So you're rapidly scaling and you're starting to hit those traditional complexities of scaling a business. We're mainly going to spend our time around the 2 inflection points, which is really where the nitty-gritty is, right? It's not necessarily what's happening in the meat of those stages that a lot of the mistakes happen. It's during the inflection points. So we're going to talk about the late blade years, the growth inflection point, and what's happening towards the end of that experience. So that journey can be anywhere from $500,000 in ARR. I'm from software, so I'll speak in recurring revenue, up to about 10 million plus ARR. So the journey of building your first sales organization. Another disclaimer, you're often going to feel like shit. Isn't working. You might also feel like shit. You're building a rocket while it's flying, and that is okay. So if you're trying to be one of those companies, one of those SaaS companies who are going after VC funding, who are trying to grow at a rate that is best in class, it's going to feel like not everything is working, and that's literally because not everything is working. So it is your job as a founder or as a head of sales to be figuring out what needs to be working at what stage, being able to prioritize those fires, and knowing which ones to kind of let sit by the side. So you have to figure out your own way of dealing with that. There's no secret sauce. We're going to talk about a lot of ways that will subdue those things and will be able to make things easier. But at the end of the day, your mental state as a founder scaling sales and as a VP of sales scaling your first sales organization, your mental health is key, and being able to manage your expectations are important. So the first stage we're going to talk about is we are somewhere around $500,000 in recurring revenue. We're founders looking to build our first sales team, most probably. And these are those late blade years that we were just talking about. So when to actually hire your first sales team member. This is the first part of the whole journey, and oftentimes where some of the first bigger mistakes happen that delay your growth in the future. The questions I would ask myself, are you actually at your first $500,000 in recurring revenue? If yes, proceed. Do you have a grasp on the value prop, and have you sold it yourself as a founder? How much time have you actually been selling your own product? Is the product actually succeeding in production for your customers? Or do you have a few paying customers, or do you have a lot of paying customers, but there's a lot of problems, right? Support is inundated. You're not really crushing it in terms of actual NPS or reviews. That's a big question to ask yourself. And can you train those sales hires? If you can answer yes to all of these, then you should absolutely proceed with hiring your first team member. Notice I'm saying team member. I'm not specifically saying who you should be hiring first just yet. If you cannot answer yes to those questions, my personal belief is that you should hold off until you can answer yes to all or most. If you haven't found true traction, which is happening, if you're a SaaS company selling 3 to 5K deals, up to 10K deals, a traditional SaaS business in the early stages, if you're not at $500,000 plus in recurring revenue, chances are you haven't found that true traction yet, or the segment that you're going to be successful in. So I would try to wait until you've actually identified that. If you're not able to sell this yourself as a founder, how are you going to accurately be able to evaluate those salespeople that you do hire? Third, salespeople are not product people. They're not product testers, and they're not there to find PMF. So it's very important that those things are solved early on, or else you'll be wasting a lot of valuable time and talent on the wrong things. And can you actually train those sales hires? If you haven't done the first three, chances are you cannot actually successfully train those few first sales hires. And it is important as a founder that you are the one, if you have done those other things, to be training those first sales hires. If you can't answer yes to those, I would try to hold off to the best of my abilities if you have the bandwidth to crack those things until you're ready to actually have that first hire. The principles of hiring your first sales members. So I'm saying members, I'm saying team members, because the chances are you're going to want to immediately go out and hire a VP of sales. Don't do that. To the best of your abilities, do not do that. We'll talk about hiring your sales leader later on at a later stage, and when we talk about mistakes. But you do not need a VP of sales yet at this stage. At least I will argue all day that you do not have to have somebody at this stage. You need sales. You need growth. You need deals. You need to learn what's working and not working. So what you really need is you need the right sales people to go out and sell those deals, to be able to collect that data, and to be able to grow the business until you really crack that engine. And then you'll add a sales leader later on, but we'll talk about that. When you're hiring your first sales team members, I follow kind of 4 key principles that I do not waver from. When I have wavered from them, I have failed. So that's why I try to always drill these home, starting with sales culture and values. This is super important. If you're gonna meet amazing salespeople in your journey of hiring, and you're gonna meet salespeople who pass background checks and who are gonna be absolutely crushing their sales gigs that they're currently at. But if they don't culturally align with your business or the values that you have in sales, they're not going to be a success, because they're going to be rubbing the shoulders the wrong way with not only your colleagues but with your customers. A very simple example of that, at Bitrise and any other company I've worked for, there's always a motto of do not oversell the customer. Do not sell something that the customer doesn't need. And a lot of other businesses will strive for that higher deal size no matter how you can get it. That can work at other places, but that does not match our sales culture. And I encourage you to think about what your sales values and culture are. Similar segment experience is key. This is one that I bet is often most probably not thought about. Do not go out and hire that big enterprise rep from Salesforce who has been selling 6-figure deals if your business is closing 5K deals every year. They will not know how to come in and sell those deals. They may act like they do. They may act like they want to do that. Who you need is somebody who's actually gone in and worked with those small and medium enterprises who have those honestly just day-to-day people needs as a customer, and do not necessarily have a complex sales cycle and a lot of stakeholders. You need to go find somebody who has had experience selling in the segment, or maybe the segment right after the types of sales that you're doing. Builder mindset is key. You do not want to be bringing in people who are not ready to roll with the punches, who are not ready to create and be builders, and to be a part of actually creating your sales organization and potentially be the first leaders of your sales organization. If these people are not completely turned on by the idea of creating something, they probably don't belong as one of your first sales hires. And last but certainly not least is being collaborative. You don't want a cowboy at this stage. You don't want somebody who's going off working alone, closing deals and not sharing what they're learning. You want people who are constantly sharing, who gets off a call, puts their notes in a public Slack channel, who gets off their call, shares the video of their call whether good or bad, with the rest of the team. A couple ways to attract the right talent: define the profile of hire as soon as possible. Make sure it's transparent with your recruitment team and yourself. Compensation packages are key. Incentivize growth. Incentivize new ARR as much as humanly possible. If it's your first comp package, pay 10, 14, 18 points on a deal. Doesn't matter to you, right? As long as your margin allows that to happen. Make sure that they're incentivized to grow your business. Spoiler alert, salespeople really want to make a lot of money, and that's great. That's completely fine if they grow your business. The third one here is my favorite for evaluating the talent that you're bringing in. Always do an assignment. My two favorite assignments: territory plan, if you're hiring somebody with more tenured experience who's going to be coming in as a mid-market or an enterprise account executive, or a mock call if you're looking to hire somebody who's an SMB or mid-market. So, and when I say mock call, I literally mean that this person should get take-home information and come back and do a sales call with you. And last but not least, go fishing. Be prepared to spend at least 25% of your time finding those people, the right hire at the beginning. And fun fact, you'll be spending at least 50% of your time hiring once you get to 10 million ARR. So once we've gotten there, you've gotten your first hires in, you're closing your first deals, you probably have a little more bandwidth. You're starting to see which segments are working. You're now somewhere probably above 1 million ARR, and now we are a VP of sales, right? Founder has moved on. VP of sales is probably coming in right now or around this time to build that initial team, those initial other departments, and the true engine. And this is where that growth inflection point is happening. One of the models that you can build when thinking about this stage, right? So taking our founder hat on, putting our VP of sales or putting our sales leader hat on, is the pod model structure. It's my favorite structure, makes a lot of sense, isn't complicated. So about up to 10 million ARR, you can tend to have these global pods, right? You can have your closing organization globally. You can manage it. It's going to be stressful, but you can have your couple of different segments of closing account executives, sales engineers if you have a technical sale. You can have your first SDRs be in one global team, and sales operations can tend to be in one global team as well. After that moment, after about 10 million, you're getting to such a team size, and most probably your team is so distributed, you probably already are, but will eventually be very unhelpful for the rest of your team because there are too many ICs, there are too many people involved. You need to start building that ELT organization around that 10 million plus moment, so that extended leadership team, your management team. And you basically just take your pods and you start building regional pods, right? And pods are literally just ensuring that you have all of the different roles you need in one specific area, depending on the region that you're in. So the pod model I'm showing here is if your main categories or your main territories, are the Americas and EMEA, but this could be LATAM and APAC, for example. And you start seeing those leadership roles built in, and you start seeing if pods can operate globally or also regionally. In this model, the closing org is a regional pod with a regional leader, but the sales engineering org, because sales engineering for the most part is familiar or similar across all territories, right? You're getting that technical win. It doesn't drastically change by territory. That could be a global pod. And what's great about doing a mix of the two, you can ensure that your sales culture and enablement can scale even better the larger you get, because not everything is completely regionalized and separated. Some advice on the closing organization: round robin leads as long as you can. Do not force segmentation. Do not try to go up market if you cannot organically go up market. If you are crushing it with SMEs, 5 to 10K deals, keep crushing it with SMEs. You can always try to to feel that out. Maybe it's a pricing issue. Maybe you can make some pricing adjustments and get those deal sizes up, and that naturally takes you up market a bit. But do not try to force yourself to sell in models that your customers are not asking you to do, right? If you do not have those large enterprise customers in your industry coming knocking on your door, don't go force it yet until it can start organically happening. Once you have validated that model, you can actually start building out those segments. And the best part is your sales organization becomes your hiring pool, right? So your SDRs become your BDRs, that become your first account executives. Those commercial reps become your enterprise reps. It starts cutting down that time to hire and that time to ramp. Sales engineering, if it's a technical sale, put them on every deal as long as you can. Collect data as much as possible, validate that SEAE model. Does it drive up deal size, right? Is it not harming cost of acquisition too much? But try to put SEs on every deal. And once you've gotten to that point, in the future, you'll be able to turn that SE org into really your jack of all trades organization within your business, because your SEs become your internal customers almost. They're the ones using your product every day. They're the ones technically speaking to your customer every day. They're going to become an invaluable source internally to learn and grow as well, not just to close deals. Helpful tips: don't overhire account executives. In the early days, if you don't have the lead flow and you're not being forced to grow month over month, quarter over quarter, do not force it to happen. Work with your growth team, work with your marketing team, build that process first. Do not try to, don't try to go hit that target by just adding heads until you can validate a model where that works. Data, collect as much data as humanly possible, build out that Salesforce implementation early, make a meaningful sales process, collect employee size, collect revenue, collect all that information that's going to help you segment in the future. And last but not least, sit on calls. Sit on as many calls as possible. Every call is a coaching opportunity, and that goes for every member in the sales organization to sit on each other's calls. Sales development, build it as early as you possibly can. I'm a big believer in specializing in the SDR BDR model. So SDR is inbound, BDR is outbound. Those are two very different motions. If somebody tells you that somebody can do both of those roles, I will tell you that you're not building enough pipeline then. Because to switch context between the two is just drastically different. One is all about velocity and getting a lead to a meeting as quickly as possible. And the other is about building value and education and converting some of your largest accounts to an opportunity. Biggest thing here early on, just build a simple funnel. Do not complicate it. Make it a couple of stages. Clearly define those stages and agree with marketing on what those stages are and how they're tracked. Once you do that, you can start optimizing on things like, is there a problem from lead to MQL? Right? Or is there a problem from MQL to SQL, to actual op creation? So is it a lead source problem? Is it a line size problem? Where is that issue? Is it an SDR problem, right? For example, are we not setting the right goals for our SDR team to get back to leads as quickly as possible? Just having a clearly defined funnel that is simple is going to help you grow quickly. Another reason for the specialization, you're going to need outbound at some point. If you're a SaaS business who's looking to grow at best-in-class rates, you're going to need to start building pipeline from other sources, probably as soon as 10 million ARR. If you can do it sooner, even better, because you're going to want to crack that engine as early as you can. And what's great is with outbound, you have full control over who you bring in. Right? So if you know exactly who your enterprise customers are, you know exactly who your strategic customers are, that you have full control over with the BDR to go and target those customers. So establish 2A with marketing early. Make sure there's ownership over the funnel on both teams. Always be looking to iterate. We have the sharpest sales development team I have ever come across at Bitrise. We are constantly looking to iterate our model. We're constantly looking to be better. but we're not trying to overcorrect or over-engineer. Just build your process in a way that you can quickly iterate on your sequences, or you can quickly iterate on your strategy. And constantly grow and invest in your sales development team, because they're your future closers or CSMs or sales leaders. In the revenue sales operations department, if you have the budget, do it. If you have the ability to bring somebody in who can own the model of the plan, who can own the actual tooling, enablement, and data governance of your sales organization, do it as early as you can, because trying to implement that at 30, 50, 100 people is brutal, because there's a lot of hard changes that have to happen to process. Plus, the sooner you do that, the better data that you'll have to make decisions like segmentation, or to make decisions with your sales development organization on what's working or not working, and to just overall help them with their strategy. But do not try to go into your later stage growth without a dedicated lead on revenue operations who owns the model to get you to 20, 50, or 100 million in revenue. Because you as a sales leader need to be worrying about growing your team, not worried about living inside of that model. So that is your true go-to-market partner on the sales side, is that revenue operations leader who owns that plan. Be sure to hire a lead that has experience in both tooling, sales operations, but also revenue planning. So building that model. Oftentimes people specialize in one or the other. You need somebody who has a holistic view of both. Always over communicate sales operations changes, best practices, all of that, and enablement. Give your team the time to ramp and grow. And I'll try to hold us accountable to time. So now we're somewhere above, around or above 10 million in ARR, and we're VP of sales building a global sales organization to scale. So we're at that early surging growth stage. At this point, or at some point, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be like Anakin here, and you're gonna say, holy shit, it's working. I can't believe it. And I promise you that this is gonna happen at some point. Because everything starts to make sense, right? All of your graphs start trending up. All of your metric best practices like win rate, average deal size, all of that starts to work and starts to land around standard or best in class. And you start to see quarter over quarter, you're improving. And that last metric is super key, that NRR, that net retention rate at 125% or above, where you're just making money while sleeping, for lack of better terms. This is the moment that you start growing. You put that foot on the pedal, you don't look behind you, and you just start to go. Spoiler alert, once you've realized this, you're probably already behind hitting next year's plan. Because turns out to double year over year, it just gets harder. So you got to start scaling, and you got to start hiring as quickly as possible, even though something exciting just happened, which is you cracked that engine. So like I was saying earlier, the pod model, one way to do that is harness remote work and go land where your customers are. For example, if you're having a lot of success in APAC or LATAM, go use remote.com. Go hire a field marketing person, an account executive, and an SE for 6 months. Give them a quota goal. Show that they can build pipeline and that you can actually hire good people. Validate it and build that pod, and just start building your pods globally. This will accelerate your growth without having to drastically change your business model. You didn't have to add a whole new segment, right? You didn't have to add a whole new organization. You're just dropping what has already worked in other regions into other regions. And then once you validate it, boom, scale it into the fully scaled pod models that we were talking about earlier. And after that, it's just how quickly can you keep up? A few mistakes along the way to keep an eye out for: hiring the wrong leader profile, which happens a lot. So there are a few different profiles. The evangelist, which is often somebody who can come in quickly. They're really good at selling. They're probably pretty sharp and gritty. They tend to be from a marketing background or perhaps a tenured account executive. You're going to love this person and they're going to have a great personality. Most probably they've never done it before. So you can hire them early, but chances are they're going to need a lot of humility and guidance to grow with the business. But it's absolutely possible. You just cannot hire the evangelist if you're already at 5 or 10 million in recurring revenue. Mr. Make It Repeatable. By the way, I'm a big SaaStr fan, and this is the model directly from Jason Lemkin, and has never let me down. So I definitely encourage you to check it out. In this phase, you've got customers. You've hired those first reps that I was talking about very early on. You're looking for the person who's a closer. You're looking for the person who's motivated by winning, and you're looking for the person who's obsessed with building. If you can find those qualities in someone, they're going to be able to take what those first reps have done and make it repeatable. In my opinion, this is the person you're looking for at most stages between 1 and 10 million ARR. And the question is, can that person grow with the business? Miss Go Big. This is quite a unicorn, but you're looking for that person who has done the stage that you're at today, but also the next stage, and has built both, not just been along for the ride. This person's going to be able to drop in with a blueprint, but they're an on-site architect. They're going to be able to pivot immediately based on what's happening in any scenario that they've just been dropped into. Absolutely possible, very big budget for this person, and oftentimes the most sought after and hard to find. Last but not least, stay far away from them. Mr. Dashboards. A lot of people fall in love with this person. They're going to come in, they're going to say big fancy words, they're going to build cool dashboards. They probably look great in a suit. Your board's going to love them, most probably as well. But chances are they're not going to talk to your customers. They're not going to jump on deals with your account executives, and they're going to hang out in the background. I highly encourage you not to rely on just a direct sales model. If you're building a SaaS product, try the best you can to build both a self-serve model and a direct sales model at the same time. Number one, buyers want to buy the way they want to buy. You should not be forcing people to buy a certain way and have to speak to a salesperson. Also, people have ditched that historical model of we have to invest heavily in software up front, but we absolutely want to be able to give people that opportunity. So try to build two different models. Last but not least, over-engineering for no reason. As I was talking about with the pod model, it's very simple to be able to take that model and iterate over time, create that sales engineering org, or open up another major market, or build a renewals team. Start iterating on the model you've already built. And one more thing, like I said earlier, you will never spend enough time on hiring. Once you hit scale, spend at least 50% of your time hiring the right people. You can bounce back from a poor feature release. You will not be able to, or it'll be very hard to be able to bounce back from a bad critical hire. So this is hard. I ran through a lot. I hope this helps you. Please reach out to me if I can be of help, or if I can just be a sounding board for any of you in the future. And good luck to everyone. Thank you very much.
All right, Alex, thank you. That was awesome. Lots of learning in there. Yeah, I was like trying to read everything that you had on the slides too. Would you be open to making your slides available for attendees if they're interested? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions, but we had a few here in the stage chat. If you have a few minutes and you want to stick around and just write some answers to those, that would be great. Yep. Otherwise, people feel free to get in touch with Alex, as he kindly offered, and you guys can take it from there. So thanks so much, Alex. Awesome job. And yeah, keep crushing it at Bitrise.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
I'll hang out and answer some questions in the stage.